Part 1. I still remember the exact moment I realized something was wrong. Not with my parents, because deep down I'd always known that, but with the future I thought I had secured for my daughter. It started as a routine phone call from the bank, the kind you almost ignore. The woman on the other end spoke carefully, like she was stepping across thin ice. She mentioned irregular withdrawals from the trust account. My stomach dropped. That account wasn't just money, it was my daughter Lily's safety net, built slowly over years of sacrifices, late nights, and skipped vacations. It was never supposed to be touched. Not until she turned 18. Not by anyone. At first, I assumed it was a mistake. A clerical error. Something that would be cleared up with a quick visit. But when I logged into the account, my hands started trembling. The balance wasn't just lower, it was nearly gone. Tens of thousands of dollars had vanished, withdrawn in chunks over the past 6 months. My mind raced through possibilities, but one truth hit harder than anything else. Only a handful of people even knew that trust existed. And 2 of them had always treated my boundaries like suggestions. My parents. I didn't want to believe it. Even after everything, every time they'd crossed a line, every moment they'd made me feel like I owed them for simply existing, I still held on to a fragile hope that they wouldn't go this far. Not to Lily, not to their own granddaughter. But hope has a way of shattering quietly, without warning. I drove straight to their house, my heart pounding so loudly it felt like it was drowning out my thoughts. They welcomed me and like nothing was wrong. My mother smiled too brightly, asking if I wanted tea. My father barely looked up from his chair. I didn't sit, I didn't pretend, I just asked the question, my voice shaking despite my effort to stay calm. Did you touch Lily's trust fund? There was a pause, too long, too heavy. My mother's smile faltered, and my father finally looked at me, his expression shifting into something defensive, almost annoyed. And in that moment, I knew. Before they even said a word, I knew. It wasn't like that, my mother said quickly, stepping closer as if she could smooth things over with tone alone. We needed help. It was temporary. Temporary. The word echoed in my head like a cruel joke. Tens of thousands of dollars, gone. My daughter's future, treated like an emergency fund they had every right to access. I felt something inside me crack. Not loudly, but deeply. You had no right, I said, my voice low now, steadier. That money wasn't yours. It wasn't mine. It was Lily's. My father scoffed, leaning back in his chair. We're family. Don't make this into something it's not. We were going to pay it back. When? I snapped. After she turns 18 and realizes it's gone. They didn't answer. And that silence said everything. The argument spiraled quickly after that. Excuses turned into accusations. Somehow, in their version of reality, I was the ungrateful one. The selfish daughter who wouldn't help her struggling parents. They twisted it so expertly, so confidently, that for a brief moment, I almost questioned myself. Almost. But then I thought about Lily. About the promises I made when she was born, that I would protect her, that I would give her the stability I never had. And in that moment, clarity cut through everything. I'm reporting this, I said. My mother's face drained of color. My father stood up abruptly, anger flashing in his eyes. You wouldn't dare. I already should have, I replied. I left before they could say anything else. Before they could manipulate, guilt, or twist the narrative further. My hands were still shaking as I got into my car, but there was something else there. Too. Something stronger than fear. Resolve. What I didn't know then was that this wasn't the end of their lies. It was only the beginning. Because my parents weren't just hiding what they'd done. They were counting on one thing, that no one else would ever find out. They were wrong, because there was one person they hadn't considered. One person who had been watching quietly, waiting for the truth to surface. Grandpa. Part 2. The family gathering was supposed to be simple, a quiet Sunday dinner at Grandpa's house, something we hadn't done in months. After everything that had happened, I almost didn't go. The tension between me and my parents had turned into a cold silence, broken only by sharp messages and empty apologies that never addressed the real issue. But Grandpa insisted, his voice firm in a way that reminded me of childhood, when his word was final. So I went, not for them, but for him. The moment I walked in, I could feel it. That strange, heavy energy that settles in a room where too much has been left unsaid. My parents were already there, acting as if nothing had happened. My mother greeted me with a cautious smile. My father avoided eye contact entirely. It was a performance, and everyone knew it. Dinner started awkwardly, small talk filling the gaps where truth should have been. I stayed quiet, focusing on Lily beside me, her laughter the only thing keeping me grounded. Then, halfway through the meal, Grandpa set down his fork. The sound was soft, but it cut through the room like a signal. "I think it's time we talk about the trust fund," he said. Silence fell instantly. My heart skipped. My parents froze. "What are you talking about?" my mother asked, her voice too quick, too sharp. Grandpa didn't look at her. He looked at me first, his eyes gentle but steady. Then he turned to the rest of the table. "I've been reviewing some financial documents," he continued calmly. "And I noticed withdrawals from Lily's trust account. Large ones." My father shifted in his seat. "This isn't the place." "It's exactly the place," Grandpa interrupted, his voice firm now. "Because this didn't just affect one person. It affected this entire family." I felt my breath catch. I hadn't told him. I hadn't told anyone, which meant one thing: he had figured it out on his own. And before anyone tries to explain it away, he added, reaching into his jacket, "I brought proof." He placed a folder on the table. Inside were printed statements, transaction records, dates, amounts, everything. There was no room left for denial. My mother's face went pale. My father looked like he'd been cornered. "You stole from your granddaughter," Grandpa said quietly, the disappointment in his voice heavier than any anger could have been. "And you thought no one would notice." "It wasn't stealing," my mother whispered, tears forming instantly. "We were going to fix it." "When?" I asked, my voice breaking through the silence. "Because you never told me. You never even planned to." They had no answer. The room felt different now, not tense, but clear. Like a fog had lifted and everyone could finally see the truth for what it was. No more excuses. No more manipulation. Grandpa turned to me. "The money will be returned," he said firmly. "I've already arranged it." I blinked, stunned. "What?" "I've set up a repayment plan using their assets," he explained. "Legally binding. They won't be able to avoid it." My parents looked shocked, almost betrayed. But this time, there was no sympathy left in the room for them. "You went behind our backs?" my father demanded. Grandpa's gaze hardened. "You went behind hers first." That was the moment everything shifted. Not just for me, but for all of us. The power they had always held, the control they had always exercised, it was gone. Exposed, stripped away, reduced to the truth they could no longer hide from. Lily squeezed my hand under the table, confused but sensing the weight of the moment. I looked at her, then back at Grandpa, gratitude swelling in my chest. For the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Because the truth had finally come out. And this time, it didn't just hurt. It protected.